When Dr. Thornfield fired Emma Rodriguez for helping uninsured patients, he thought he was just eliminating a problem employee. But Emma's 82-year-old grandfather had a different perspective. 50 years ago in Vietnam, he dragged a wounded soldier through enemy fire, saving his life at the cost of his own injuries. That soldier's name was James Thornfield. Now, James Thornfield's son had just fired the granddaughter of the man who'd given him life. Some debts can never be repaid, but they can be remembered. And this grandfather was about to remind the Thornfield family what honor really means. Dr. Richard Thornfield had built his career on efficiency, policy, and the bottom line. At 58, as chief administrator of Memorial General Hospital, he prided himself on running a tight ship. When the termination letter landed on his desk, he signed it without hesitation. Emma Rodriguez had violated hospital policy one too many times, and examples needed to be made. What he didn't know was that this signature would awaken a debt 50 years in the making. If you believe that honor transcends generations and that some promises should never be forgotten, hit that like button and subscribe, because Miguel Rodriguez is about to teach us all what real loyalty looks like. Your support helps us share more stories of quiet courage and the bonds that connect us across time. Emma Rodriguez had never intended to become a rebel. At 26, she'd taken the ER registration job at Memorial General Hospital because she believed in helping people heal. What she discovered was a system designed to heal bank accounts, not patients. Every night, desperate families arrived with sick children, heart attack victims, accident survivors, people whose lives hung in the balance while insurance companies decided their worth. Over 3 years, she'd helped hundreds of families navigate the impossible bureaucracy of emergency healthcare. She memorized insurance loopholes, befriended social workers, and turned the ER desk into an unofficial lifeline for people the system forgot. Emma's grandfather had taught her these values. Miguel Rodriguez was 82 now, his body bent from old injuries, but his spirit remained unbroken. He'd raised Emma after her parents died when she was 12, filling her childhood with stories of service and sacrifice. Miguel had served 2 tours in Vietnam as an army medic. He'd returned home with a Purple Heart, chronic pain from shrapnel wounds, and an unwavering belief that helping others was life's highest calling. Dr. Thornfield knew none of this when he started receiving complaints about Emma Rodriguez. Department heads reported that she was spending too much time with patients, making unauthorized phone calls, and helping people access services outside normal protocols. The final straw came when Emma helped an undocumented immigrant family whose toddler had suffered severe burns. Emma spent 4 hours coordinating care, finding translators, and connecting them with burn specialists who agreed to treat the child regardless of payment status. Dr. Thornfield reviewed the case and saw policy violations everywhere. He drafted her termination letter that same afternoon, citing insubordination and failure to follow established procedures. Emma received the termination notice on a Friday morning. 3 years of dedication, hundreds of families helped, reduced to a form letter citing policy violations. By noon, Emma Rodriguez was walking to her car with a cardboard box of personal belongings. That evening, Emma sat in her grandfather's kitchen, tears flowing as she recounted the day's events. Miguel listened without interruption, his expression growing darker with each detail. When Emma finished, Miguel asked quietly for the name of the man who'd fired her. She repeated it, Dr. Richard Thornfield. Miguel's face went white. He stood slowly and returned carrying a faded manila folder. Inside were Vietnam War documents and a casualty report that made Emma's breath catch. There, in official military language, was the account of how Corporal Miguel Rodriguez had rescued Private James Thornfield from an enemy ambush. Miguel's voice was steady but cold as he explained. March 15, 1968, outside Da Nang. Their patrol had walked into an ambush. Private Thornfield, barely 19, had been hit in the first volley. Miguel had crawled 50 yards through enemy fire to reach the wounded soldier. James Thornfield was bleeding out, going into shock. Miguel had stabilized him under fire, then dragged him back toward friendly lines. A mortar round exploded nearby, sending shrapnel into Miguel's back and legs, but he didn't stop. He carried James Thornfield to the evacuation helicopter, saving his life. Miguel had followed James Thornfield's life from a distance over the years. The young man he'd saved had recovered, attended medical school on veterans' benefits, and built a successful career. Now that same man's son had fired Miguel's granddaughter for showing compassion. Miguel made 3 phone calls that weekend. By Monday morning, he'd assembled a coalition of old soldiers who remembered what honor meant. Tuesday afternoon, James Thornfield Sr., now 82 and walking with a cane, visited his son's office. The night before, he'd received a phone call from Miguel Rodriguez. The conversation had been brief but devastating. Miguel had simply identified himself, mentioned their shared combat experience, and explained what had happened to his granddaughter. The conversation between father and son was private, but hospital staff reported that Dr. Thornfield emerged looking shaken. Wednesday brought more visitors. 3 Vietnam veterans requested meetings with Dr. Thornfield, each sharing stories about Miguel Rodriguez's character and service. Thursday's delegation was larger. Representatives from 4 veteran organizations presented Dr. Thornfield with a detailed account of Miguel's military service. They requested Emma's reinstatement not as a favor, but as recognition of a debt the Thornfield family owed. Friday brought the most unexpected visitor. Emma Rodriguez herself, accompanied by her grandfather, requested a meeting. Miguel walked slowly but steadily, his Purple Heart ribbon pinned to his jacket lapel. The meeting was brief and dignified. Miguel didn't demand anything. He simply wanted Dr. Thornfield to understand who Emma Rodriguez was and why she'd acted as she had. She was raised by a man who'd been taught that service means sacrifice and that leaving people behind is never acceptable. Dr. Thornfield listened in silence. When Miguel finished, Dr. Thornfield asked a single question: what would make this right? Miguel's answer was simple. Emma needed the freedom to do what she'd always done: help people navigate the system when the system failed them. Dr. Thornfield spent that weekend reviewing Emma's employment record. The picture was extraordinary. Every patient Emma had helped had received appropriate care. Every case had been resolved without legal complications or financial loss to the hospital. Monday morning brought Dr. Thornfield's decision. He created a new position, Patient Advocacy Coordinator. The role would formalize everything Emma had been doing informally, giving her the authority and resources to help patients navigate insurance, financing, and care coordination. Emma Rodriguez returned to Memorial General Hospital not as a rule-breaking clerk, but as the hospital's first official patient advocate. Her grandfather attended the ceremony where Dr. Thornfield announced the new position. Emma thrived in her new role. With official authority and administrative support, she helped even more families access care. The program became a model that other hospitals began to study and replicate. Miguel Rodriguez continued visiting the hospital occasionally as a volunteer. He and James Thornfield Sr. encountered each other once in the cafeteria, sharing a brief conversation that ended with a handshake and mutual nods of respect. The 2 old soldiers found peace knowing that bonds forged in combat had ultimately served healing rather than revenge. Their families would carry forward the lesson that honor transcends policy, that compassion trumps procedure, and some debts can only be repaid by helping others. Miguel Rodriguez and Emma Rodriguez remind us that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes it's dragging a wounded soldier through enemy fire. Sometimes it's helping a scared family navigate hospital bureaucracy. Both require the same willingness to put others before yourself. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe to Everyday Quiet Heroes. Share it with someone who believes that honor should span generations and that kindness should never be punished. If you or someone you know has experienced similar acts of quiet heroism, please share those stories in the comments. They inspire us and help shape future stories that celebrate everyday courage. Thank you for watching, and remember, the next time someone shows you unexpected compassion, you might be witnessing a hero in action.